Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. Welcome back. We are in the middle of something a little bit different. I'm on vacation. I'm away. I'm visiting in Tennessee and Florida. And so I decided to do kind of a getting into prepping short series, a bunch of 15-minute episodes. So I hope you enjoy these. This is a little different than the format I normally do. Normally my episodes are like an hour to an hour and a half, interviews, deep dives into topics. So if you're interested, we'll talk about that later. So far, this is part 3 of a 5-part series, and we've got you to the point where you've got a week or so's worth of food and water, maybe 2 weeks worth of food and water on hand for well under $100. So I hope that helps relieve your fear just a bit. And if you're just diving in at part 3, I'll still be here. Put this on pause, go back and watch the first 2 episodes, and we'll work our way through. But like I've said in each of these episodes so far, fear is never a long-term motivator. A lot of people come to preparedness where they see a need to look after themselves and their family because something has scared them, some kind of world event. And I've gone back through Y2K, 2008, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, the Russian issue, COVID, whatever it happens to be. Those are always things that are there. But all of that stuff eventually passes. So if you're motivated because you might be a little bit nervous about what's going on, just remember, don't let that be your long-term motivation. Let your long-term motivation be self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and the ability to take care of you and yours when everything else is just a little messed up. So this week we are talking about something that might sound a little boring, but hang in with me. It is documentation and planning. This is the week that costs you literally nothing. This is even cheaper or as cheap as bottling water in used pop bottles out of your own tap. There's really not a whole lot about it. We're basically talking about having a plan, having a place to go if there's a disaster, and making sure all of your important documents and things like that are backed up. So like I said, when we get into prepping, a lot of people are, oh man, this is I'm worried about global financial collapse, or I'm worried about a pandemic, or whatever it happens to be. But even though we've dealt with a lot of junk in the last while, the most likely disaster is something local or personal or locally geographic. So you'll be either like a job loss, health issues, or a local weather emergency. And the local weather emergencies, depending on what they are, there's a good chance that you might need to leave home. We call that bugging out, but whatever you want to call it, the last thing you want to do is to be like all the other people that you see evacuating from a hurricane, a wildfire, anything else, and not have a plan. You're just another one of the busy people trying to get out of Dodge, and you're gridlocked on the interstate because, well, I didn't have a plan. And planning's free. That's the best part about it. So first thing you need to do is take a look at your local area and make a list. You're like, okay, so what, where I live on the prairies in Canada, I don't have to worry about hurricanes per se. We just don't get them here. But there's a small chance of things like wildfires and a small chance of tornadoes. But one of the things that we deal with here are nasty snowstorms and frigid cold, like down to -40. For you, it could be a blizzard, it could be a hurricane, a tornado, wildfire, flooding. That can be an issue on the prairies as well. But first thing you need to know is, okay, what is most likely? Because, like I said, I prefer to prep, and you want to get the most bang for your buck. So you want to prep for the most likely scenarios where you have the best chance of prepping with the odds. So for you, if it's a hurricane, well, you're going to prep for a hurricane. If it's a wildfire, that kind of thing. So the first thing you want to do is just think, okay, if I have a nasty storm coming, can I outrun it? Can I drive away? Can I go south, north, east, or west in an opposite direction so that I'm safe? And if I can, you need to figure out 2 to 3 routes to get there. So for me, for the most part, almost all weather systems on the prairies either go from east to west or west to east. So for me, going north takes me toward the North Pole. So I really don't want to do that. So my big escape route is heading south for the most part. And it could be southeast, southwest, or straight south. So then you look and you say, okay, well, in a normal circumstance, how far do I need to drive to get away from whatever this disaster is? So then look for a meeting area, somewhere that you know you can go and you can stay. Find hotels there, write the hotel names and numbers down, have them ready to go. The worst thing that could happen is you could call and book a hotel and then cancel it 4 hours later because they called off the weather. And this type of thing, the reason we want to do this documentation and planning is so that we have an understanding of when we really do need to leave home. We know what that trigger is going to be. When that gets snapped, all right, it's time to go. And I have a plan so we can get on the road quickly and deal with it as we go. And then if you live in metropolitan areas, this can be a little more tricky, but try to have 3 or 4 routes to get out of there. Try to know the places that other people won't think about, maybe back roads, that kind of thing. But just so you want to know what the most likely disasters are in your area. And I'm not talking about, life-altering disasters. It could be, but just things that you may need to leave home for. Know where they are, know routes out of town, know the way you should go, 3 or 4 of those, and then have a place lined up for when you get there to where you can stay. So like I said, hotels, have a bunch of hotels. So you can just, as you're driving, the missus or the mister in the seat next to you can start making phone calls or get on Expedia and book a hotel room, Priceline, whatever it is. Just book one, even if you have to pay a cancellation fee. And you get to turn around an hour down the road because the storm swung. Great. Nothing wrong with that. Or if you're hauling an RV, then you can find a place where you can park an RV. Find RV parks. Sometimes on the prairies, there's a lot of places that will let you pull in and park in like regional or municipal parks, that kind of thing. And a lot of times there's a ton of different RV and campgrounds around that don't even look like campgrounds. So that's another option to consider. Or if you have family or friends a few hours away, you could do kind of a mutual thing where you can let them know that if they need to bug out, if they need to leave home, they can come to your property. And if you need to leave home, you can go to their property. So if you've got an RV, back it up, park it in their horse pasture, their barn, wherever it happens to be, somewhere safe that hey, this will absolutely work. But again, it's having that plan ahead of time so that it gives you peace of mind. Now, the other part of that is when you make that plan, have yourself decided on what you're going to do at the home here. So if you have personal belongings you can't take with you and you're dealing with a flood, move them up a floor. Have a plan in place to move this kind of stuff. Make a list ahead of time of all the things either you want to bring with you. So again, if you're leaving, have what we call a bug out bag or bug out equipment, a bunch of stuff that you want to take with you on the road to get away from whatever the issue happens to be. Now, again, if you noticed anything, there's literally no cost involved in this. And there's not even a hell of a lot of time. You could do it some evening watching Netflix with your significant other and just say, okay, honey, here's the plan. We are going to figure out what the most common disaster is. We're going to figure out the routes out of town, and then we're going to figure out a place where we can stay. And you may need multiple locations as well. But have a plan for home of where you're going to put stuff when you leave so that it'll be safe. Fire's different, but do what you can to protect the stuff that's home. Also, have a plan for your pets. Don't just say, well, I'm just going to grab all my cats and throw them in a cat carrier, because that's what it's going to come down to. But ahead of time, get them ready for that. And this might sound foolish, but throw your cats in a cat carrier and go for a drive once a month or once a year, just so they're not completely out of whack for it. Or, have a little bit of Benadryl or Gravol or something safer like CBD oil, maybe something that'll help calm the animals down so that they can travel better. Do what you need to do. Have a plan for kids as well. So if you have, say, kids that are old enough to drive and be out on their own with vehicles, make a copy of this plan for them. And of course, put all this on paper, have it laminated, have it in a binder, have it in a duotang, whatever it happens to be, and put one in each vehicle of your family so that everybody can just flip to it. They're like, okay, well, crap, this is bad. We've got a snowstorm coming. And Dad said, if it's calling for so much and we can get around it, we're going to leave. But how do I get there? And you'll have the routes marked out and you'll tell them where to go. That way they don't have to memorize a lot. You can go through it with them, but they won't have to memorize a lot. Now, the next thing, of course, that people forget about within documentation and planning is the documentation part. So once you have a plan in place, the next thing you can do to cover your behind is to make copies of everything and anything you might need in an emergency. And this will not be an exhaustive list, but you can sit down and start again with your significant other, or if you live by yourself, just start brainstorming and writing things down. But things like prescription bottles, your passport, driver's license, health card, insurance documentation, birth certificate, social insurance, all of that stuff, absolutely everything. Pictures of your kids, pictures of your animals, then pictures of your license plates, pictures of all your vehicle registrations, pictures of your insurance cards for your vehicles. And then take a walk around your property and either videotape or take photos of absolutely everything of value. Because if you have that done ahead of time, you're, 90% ahead of all the other people that are dealing with disaster recovery. And of course, I've talked about it before, but insurance is definitely the prepper's best friend because it's going to take care of you. If something happens and you lose everything you own, taking pictures of all of that ahead of time is going to be very, very beneficial to you. Trust me. Now you're probably saying, well, Tim, I don't want to put all this stuff out there for someone to see. Well, you have a few options here, and I'm not going to get into like craziness or anything, but the first thing I would say is go and buy yourself a bulk pack of, a 3 or 4 pack of USB drives, and all this documentation is going to fit on the smallest USB drive you can buy brand new in the store now. If you get yourself a 2 or 4 gigabyte one, I don't know what they run now, but it can't be much more than $5 or $10 at this point for the cheap ones. Get yourself, or honestly, this is what I did. I went through my junk drawer and I found 4 or 5 USB drives and I just used those. So what I did, find yourself a PDF maker on the computer, something that will take all your pictures and dump them in and make a big file out of them. It just makes it easier to navigate. Mine ended up about 4 great big long PDF files long. I put them on USB drives, and now you can keep one in your vehicle or you can keep one in the bag, your get out of Dodge bag that you're going to take with you if you have to leave. Also, now this is something I do. Not everybody will want to do this, but I store mine on certain online drives. You can use iCloud, you can use Google Drive, Microsoft has one. And if I believe in security by obscurity, and the fact that you're not a target or people aren't looking out for your stuff probably means you're probably going to be okay. But password protect that stuff. Just put it online and make sure you have a decent password to your Google Drive or your iCloud and just store it there, because unfortunately, USB drives can get corrupted. They can get lost. The weather can wreak havoc on them. You can forget them behind. But as long as you can find somewhere with an internet connection and you can get access to the cloud, all your documentation is there. And that can mean, wow, we had to leave town and I forgot my blood pressure medication. So I can run into the local pharmacy and they might be able to do an emergency 10-day supply based on a photo. I'm not saying they will, but I am saying there's a good chance they might do, say, a 10-day supply of your prescriptions based on, okay, he has a picture of his bottle, has his name, and has a valid RX number, all of that. Or say you lost your passport and your driver's license, your wallet was stolen. All of this stuff will be there in order to aid you in getting all of that documentation again. It's all simple stuff. It's not difficult. It's just sitting down and taking the time. Confession time. My insurance photos on my drive are 2 years old right now. So it's time for me to go around and update those. And that's something you have to do. All of this stuff, once it's done, it's easier to do the next time, but just keep on top of it and be comfortable doing it. Get yourself a yearly routine. I use an app on my iPhone called Genius Scan, and it just basically turns documents into PDF files, turns pictures into PDF files, and it makes everything super simple, and it just does a really good job. Beyond that, people say, well, backing up your documentation isn't prepping. Saving up ammo and buying body armor and digging a bomb shelter. No, that's not prepping. That's prepper porn. That's stuff that's in a video or somebody, like the show that was on Discovery years ago, Doomsday Preppers, that kind of thing. Those things, that's not what you need to worry about. What you need to worry about is taking care of your family for everyday disasters and the most common things that can happen in your area. And documentation and planning is one of those big things. So here we are. We've done food, we've done water, and now we've done documentation and planning, and we haven't even spent $100 yet. And you're good for damn near half a month. So I'm proud of you. Stick with me. come back. We'll have another episode later this week. And yeah, we're going to be dealing with first aid, and we'll go from there after that. So thanks, guys. I always appreciate you dropping by to hang out. Share this video with other people. And like I said, if you want to know more about me, toolmantim.co is the way to go, or subscribe to the Workshop podcast, and there'll be a ton of great interviews and content coming up. So guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.